From a leadership standpoint, whether it's the CEO or the whole senior management team needs to treat your staff like their clients. I just was fearless. I didn't even think about it. I really just thought that this must be just a natural fit. And there was such a demand and there was such an opportunity. There's a whole downside to expanding. It's more work, it's a little chaotic.
Welcome to the 5-Star Fitness podcast, which is all about elevating fitness through hospitality. And I'm very happy today to be welcoming an old friend of the Fit Guide. We recently talked in Las Vegas on this very topic, hospitality and fitness. And we've had so many great conversations before about everything that's happening in the fitness industry. And I'm very excited to share her insights today. Jennifer Vaughan Maanavi from Physique 57. We're going to kick things off, Jennifer, all the way back when you started Physique 57. What happened in your life to make you feel personally and professionally ready to start that club, that brand when you did?
So I had worked in finance for, at that point, 11 years, and I loved it. But I had a very rigorous schedule, as you would imagine. So sort of a 7 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. schedule, which is actually light for some people on Wall Street. And then I would go to this bar class called the Lottie Burke Method pretty much every night at like 7:45. But then I had the cutest little thing happen, which is I had a baby, which was fantastic, except also, which you know, Jack, babies are awake from about 7 to 7 or 7 to 8. So that schedule that I had of working and then working out would not allow me, obviously, to see this adorable little baby that I had. So I was questioning my schedule, like, how am I going to make this work? Also, I had a huge passion for bar fitness, which at the time was not even called bar fitness. And I also had an MBA from Columbia Business School and about, as I said, about a decade of business experience. So between needing to think about my schedule, the education that I had, that I loved, and this love of fitness, and particularly bar, I thought, well, let me just bring all these things together and start a business. And at the time, the Lottie Burke Method, which is where I took my classes, was going out of business. So I had this opportunity to keep that business going. I didn't end up buying it, but I started something similar with their top instructor. So it was really a mix of an opportunity, passion, a need to change my schedule, and confidence in the education and the work experience that I had that allowed me to have the confidence to start a new business. And I came to the realization within about 48 hours of learning that I had this opportunity. So I just put it all together, stirred it up, and here I am.
That's awesome. You make it sound so easy. I'm just wondering, Jennifer, was there anything that happened when you were younger or any life experience that just sort of gave you the confidence to do it? Because you make it sound very easy, and I'm sure it wasn't at the time, but I think a lot of people want to take that leap of faith, but just haven't quite got it in them. So I'm just wondering if there's anything that you can recall that just sort of made you, give you that oomph, give you that extra energy, enthusiasm, confidence to really take that step.
I loved entrepreneurship in school, and I went to school a long time ago where entrepreneurship really wasn't a focus. And I thought back to some of the endeavors that I had pursued that were entrepreneurial, and even working on Wall Street, I would actually say is pretty entrepreneurial because it's sort of an eat what you kill environment. And I've just thrived in that sort of field. So I have an appetite for risk, knowing that I love working with clients. I love the hospitality, which is your thing, obviously. I love making people feel good. I love loving customers. Like, I have a tendency to fall in love with my clients and customers. So I think that orientation, along with those fundamental elements that I mentioned, I just was fearless. I didn't even think about it. I really just thought that this must be just a natural fit. And there was such a demand and there was such an opportunity. And I had such an orientation towards working with the public and trying to make women happier in their own bodies that it was sort of like fail-safe in my mind. I know I was crazy, but I really thought that there's just no way this won't work.
From the way that you talk about it, it's clear that, you were sort of built for this. And I love this idea of sort of falling in love with your clients. And I want to dig into that in a bit. I want to start off with, just in case anyone hasn't been to Physique or hasn't heard of Physique 57, if you meet someone at a party and you need to tell them in 30 seconds what Physique 57 is, what do you say?
I have been in business for 19 years, and our headquarters is here in New York City, which is where I am in my office. And I have had to tell the Physique 57 story many times. And what I tell clients is we wanted to create an exercise that women could do every single day for the rest of their lives. It is low impact, high intensity. It's very fun. The choreography changes all the time. You have the stability of a bar that you can hold onto, so you're not going to embarrass yourself or have anything bad happen. So you have the stability of a ballet bar in a strength training class so that you can work every muscle head to toe to strengthen and lengthen your body.
Awesome. And if you were to describe the perfect member journey in Physique 57, the one that you hope and work on being delivered every single time, even when you're not at the studio, we've obviously talked about this at great length. We have witnessed firsthand through the Fit Guide that member journey, but I want you to take your time and talk us through really the first contact they have with the brand, how they feel, and what happens through that member journey.
As we know, which has been the case for decades, is the customer experience is a blend of the virtual digital experience as well as the in-person experience. So what we're hoping is that even when you come to the website, you're feeling like there is a warm hug, a big smile, and somebody there explaining what the method is, what's about to happen, how you can get into the studio quickly. And this also happens on the on-demand side. Half the business is an on-demand platform with clients in over 70 countries. And then there's the studio experience. But we really look at them as the same, and we run it as two different businesses. But I would say that what we're hoping is that you come to the website and you're educated. Just like a regular person, we try to keep it very simple, which is hard, but we try to keep it very simple about what we offer for you, for your body, what you can expect when you come into the studio. We then try to make it, with the help of our CRM and our point of sale system, very easy for you to book a class and to be educated along the way and have as few clicks as possible. Big hugs, big smile, try to educate you along the way through our automated emails, what you can expect, what you need to bring, what time you need to show up, what's going to happen when you show up. We do that through words and photos to the best of our ability, so that when you come in, you know what to expect. And we also hope you find it easily. We're in Manhattan, so it can be a little chaotic. Then when you're there, and probably more on the studio side because it's in person, again, a warm hello. How are you? Using names when we can. It's a big city and we have a lot of people coming in and out, but as often as we can, try to use names. And then the pass off to the instructor being seamless and inviting as well. And then the magic happens in the class. It's happening all along the way, but really like the big, pull the cat, the rabbit out of the hat starts in the studio. So once they walk into the studio is when, again, names, get to know you, explaining everything about what's going to happen in the class, the weights, where to stand, when we're going to go to the bar, the body parts that we're going to go through, and what this 1 hour is going to be like. And it may be challenging, it may be humbling, but it's going to be fun no matter what. And then it goes on, because it doesn't just end there, but there's an exit. So there's goodbyes and there's people inquiring about your experience. We really also are relying on the other clients in the class to make the experience successful, because everyone's friendly. There's lots of chatting before and after. So they're really, even if they're not chatting with other clients, they can see with their two eyes that this is a friendly environment and people are talking to each other. And when I take class, my rule for myself is to introduce myself to somebody every time. So I just walk right up and say, "Oh, I'm Jennifer Maanavi. I'm the CEO, or I'll say I'm the founder, I'm the owner, and I'm here to say hello, and I'd love to meet you." And it's amazing what that experience can be. And I would suggest all CEOs and founders, every time you're in the studio, if you can, or in any business, introduce yourself to at least one person.
So you introduce yourself, you say hello. What about after the class, once that, roughly hour-long session has finished? What happens then?
Yeah, so afterwards is, and actually that I make my introductions for myself after. Of course, I can't be in all the studios at one time,
Okay.
but I'm doing that after. So when we're all on the floor and we're exhausted, I'll like crawl over and say hi. I'm usually on my knees when I'm doing it, eye to eye on my knees. Yesterday, I introduced myself to 3 clients because we were very close to each other, and we're all just still sitting there talking to each other. And a lot of people linger on the floor if we have time and talk to each other. But outside in the lobby area is when there's a lot of dialogue going on. With front desk is involved, the teacher is involved, and we really hope when they're leaving, they feel like someone said, whether we actually said it or they just feel it, it's like we've said, "Thank you so much for coming, and we hope you come back." So see you soon, see you next week, see you tomorrow, as much as we can either say or signal that that's our intention. That's what we try to do in that last 10, 15 minutes. But really, entrances and exits, I talk about a lot.
Yeah, we have a whole episode coming up actually talking about what Matt teaches the world's best hospitality brands about the importance of that first and last touch point on each visit. So it's interesting to hear that you do that as well. Me and Matt have been having some conversations around that. And just to give the viewers and the listeners a little bit of context, you were one of the first studios that we visited because New York was our first launch studio. And it was the first realization, I think, speaking to you after we'd visited, that these incredible fitness experiences that are delivered consistently by the world's best brands, it is no mistake. It's not just throwing in good people and letting them do their thing or being at the branch every day and sort of trying to make sure everything happens. It's systematically designing the member journey from start to finish and then training the team up, delivering the systems, the accountability, the training to ensure that it's done right every time. And it was really, I mean, I thought that was the case about the fitness industry, but it was the first time I actually had the conversation that really showed it. And since then, we've had many with people around the industry doing great things. And it was really interesting for me to see that these things don't happen by accident. With that in mind, Jennifer, how do you get the right people to deliver these great experiences? How do you recruit them?
I mean, I am very lucky. We've been in business for 19 years, and many people in the company have been with me for 10 plus years. The people who hire instructors, for example, one has been here for 7 years and two have been here for 10 plus years. So they know, they look for what I look for. But I recognize not everyone has that privilege, but it's very clear that it's in writing what we look for. It's just a general energy. And as you probably have heard this statement, like you either give energy or you take energy. There's givers and takers. So you have to be an energy giver. You don't even need that much experience in the fitness industry. So it's like another thing more about the practical side. But on the hospitality side, it's somebody who you just want to see that naturally has a smile. We test for their willingness and interest in taking feedback and having a revisionist orientation. And dancers do. So just want to always plug the dancers that we hire. Dancers are just used to notes and edits and let's do it differently or better the next time. We hire generally dancers or people from the hospitality or with a sales background. So we're really looking for that in their personality to make it more clear. It's really a personality trait.
I love this idea of being an energy giver rather than an energy taker. And I think we can all think of in our lives a few energy takers and a few energy givers. So I like that way of framing it. So that's how that's some of the things you look for in terms of recruiting the right people. What about in terms of like systems and training and kind of the more sort of clear-cut steps, if you will, to sort of make sure these things happen regularly?
Yes, SOPs are huge, and SOPs around hospitality. I mean, I think most people listening to this are either running businesses or working in businesses, and they're familiar with an SOP. So that's not necessarily the new news. I think what we try to do with our SOPs, though, is have SOPs around how you greet a client, how you like all these things that I was talking about have to be in writing. And we even have what's called a hospitality promise posted at the front desk. And it is our obligation for ourselves as employees to deliver hospitality. So there's a brand promise that we have, and that's, again, internal and what we would expect clients to feel when they come into the studio and what we're trying to deliver to clients all the time. But we also have a hospitality promise. And it is about, and as we have talked about, client service is reactive. It's hospitality is delivering service proactively, like just thinking ahead at what the client might want. And that's in writing at our front desk, really putting a lot of this in writing. So making it like sort of institutionalized in your company and part of the DNA. And we have our core values in writing, in big posters.
And I think getting the good people in, having the systems, having it written down is important, although it's not enough to just have it written down, of course, and that's well noted there. I think that one of the sort of final pieces that really brings it all together is the leadership. So can you give any sort of, I guess, tips or things that you do or things that you inspire your managers to do at Physique 57?
I know that there are sayings about like client first and the client's always right. Maybe the client's always right, not always, but there are ways to even win if the client isn't right and turn that around. But what I want to say is it really starts with your team and building the business inside and out. And from a leadership standpoint, I believe that whether it's the CEO or the whole senior management team needs to treat your staff like their clients. Right now, we have up to 40 employees in New York, and I think of them as clients. Like that's a type of client, and then there's obviously all the other clients. But I need to make sure they feel well taken care of and they feel admired and respected. So I very often will we get lots of testimonials, which is wonderful, and I'm copying and pasting and texting them out to employees with like maybe weekly, like, oh, someone just said this about your video, or someone just sent this in. We just got a wonderful email from a 66-year-old client that I sent out. So from a leadership standpoint, celebrating when clients have expressed gratitude for them, talked about how they feel when they're working out. There's physical aspects as well, but usually it's more mental and emotional that people are commenting on. So just sharing the celebrations about how we've made people feel and taking the time to share that individually with different employees is huge. And then leading by example. They see that I'm talking to clients. They see that I am doing my best to create a warm and inviting environment for the clients and for them as well.
It's so interesting because traditionally for the fitness industry, testimonials would have been like, I've lost this much weight, or I've hit this number on the scale, or I'm stronger. And I just love it now how the fitness industry has evolved into being, this is how I feel. This is the impact it's had on my life. These are the people that I've met. This is how I feel when I come to Physique. And I just think that's awesome. And it really nicely sums up what I love so much about the fitness industry and what it's become. Jennifer, I want to talk about other brands inside health and wellness that inspire you, and why? Are there any brands that are front of mind for you?
Yeah, there's so many. And I'll say overarching, I have deep respect for brands that are unapologetic and stick to their knitting. I mean, Lifetime Fitness is amazing. Like they do everything and they're doing it so well. So Lifetime Fitness, I admire for having, it was a gym and now there's wellness and now there's doctors and there's shakes and there's lunch and there's dinner. I mean, amazing. But they have a lot of money. They have a lot of people and a lot of
space.
It's a lot of space, exactly. They have investment, they have cash, so they can do that, and they're doing it beautifully. So tons of respect. I think Equinox similarly, like they're just expanding all their offerings, and they're doing a brilliant job. For many of us, and I'll put myself in that us, we don't really have like the people and the resources and the time and the marketing research to really do that well. And by just putting it up on your website, I just think something's going to get lost. It's hard to follow through on that promise. So I respect brands, in the fitness industry, if you're not a Lifetime or an Equinox or something like that, where this is what you offer and this is what you do. And you can create formats. Like Physique 57 has a Pilates format, we have a strength format, we have our classic bar format, and we know what we're good at, and we've tried other things and it just doesn't really jive. And I really respect brands that can do that. So yes, there's many, many trends, but we're sticking to our knitting and we're delivering what we know best how to, with the resources we have and with the brand awareness we have.
Yep, love it. And then looking outside of the fitness industry, of course, the Fit Guide is all about bringing in elements from hospitality. Do you look outside of the fitness industry for inspiration? And are there any brands that you particularly look up to?
All the time. And I don't travel that much, but I travel, I guess, with some frequency, quarterly probably. And I love visiting the hotels, and it doesn't have to be even a 5-star hotel. Like I wish I could travel with Matt Lavender all over the place. So even if I'm going to Ohio, believe it or not, in a couple days, and I'm going to a flag football tournament for 4 days, and I will definitely be trying to learn what I can from this hotel that I'm staying in. And then I've already signed up for a bunch of classes just to see what that experience is like. So I'm just constantly, when I'm traveling, taking it all in. So I would say from the hospitality standpoint, again, every range, whether you're in the football field or in a beautiful city, I'm always taking things in from the hospitality industry. And then also, I think a lot can be learned from the fashion industry. And I'm not a fashion maven. I'm not talking about like going shopping and dressing in all the high fashion. Yeah. I just mean what I've learned. I mean, I am amazed that these fashion brands just come out with clothing all the time. So Norma Kamali is a very well-known fashion designer in America. We teach class at her showroom 3 times a week. She is just an icon. And I mean, this woman, it's every couple months, it's a new line, it's a new show, it's a new fashion show, it's a new this, a new that. And you probably see in your emails, like our new July, from other brands, our July capsule and our fall capsule and our holiday capsule. from a creativity standpoint, just admire fashion brands that take what they're good at and what their style is and change it up seasonally. And I think we could all learn from that and change up maybe our formats or come up with not just challenges. I mean, challenges are fun. So we try to visually, to the extent we can, I mean, we're not fashion designers, but to the extent that we can, try to learn from the fashion industry and come out with a new visual look, at least for the brand on a quarterly basis. But I would really, really encourage everyone on this phone call to think about fashion as something you could learn from, because it's remarkable.
I almost see sort of business and entrepreneurship almost as sort of art in a way. It's half science, half art, right? You've got the science, which is the financials, and you've got the art, which is taking inspiration from things like fashion. I really love that one. I love, of course, hospitality. We talk about a lot here. And one point you made there, which I think is really interesting and just worth double clicking on, is it doesn't need to be your Ritz-Carlton or your Michelin star restaurants where you get inspiration from hospitality. You know, Matt has worked, of course, with a lot of these brands. They do it exceptionally well to a very high level. But sometimes you go to a coffee shop and buy a $3 coffee and you notice some of the things they do there, which are just fantastic in terms of building that connection with the person in front of you. And many of the things that we talk about on this podcast, most of them, in fact, if not all of them, can really be done by anyone. You don't need necessarily a master's degree in hospitality to deliver this or to work at Ritz-Carlton. I think that's a really important point to make. Jennifer, obviously you've had a great journey through fitness and you've had a lot of success, but I think it's important to also talk a little bit about some of the difficult times and how we overcame them, because every entrepreneur has many stories, of course, and you've got 19 years. I'm sure you've got many to draw on. Is there one particular dark or difficult time in your journey that you can tell us about and how you overcame it?
Yes. So I won't talk about the pandemic because I'm sure everyone's talking about it, but just, FYI, New York was closed for a year. I closed everything down, got out of my leases, and I'm rebuilding. I'm basically founding the same company 2 times. So that's that. We can talk about the pandemic any other time. But I thought I would think about other challenges regardless of the pandemic. And I have 2 times signed leases or agreements that fell through in the last minute after they were announced and everyone was hired. One was a beautiful studio that was going to be on the Upper East Side of New York. And we usually in America, there's this asbestos clause. And like 99.9% of the time, there's no asbestos, or if there is, they get it out. It's like a non-event. In this particular case, it was a huge event when they went to do some work. It really, you couldn't move in. And I had hired everybody because it takes a while to train. I didn't think the construction would take that long. So like people were hired, they were on healthcare, like we were ready to roll. I had maybe 10 people on track to work there and already in training. And it just fell apart after like 4 or 5 months of construction bids of not construction, but of the lease negotiation. But it was like a done deal. And on a Wednesday at 5 o'clock, I found out that they didn't want to fix the asbestos issue. And I actually had opera tickets. So I had to sit through the entire 3-hour opera about what to do with 10 employees that were like
quite suitable for the mood, though. Was it one of those kind of emotional European from the heart operas?
Yeah, I think it was Aida, which was so long. I was like, okay, this has to end. And I came up with a plan, and it worked.
During
and I
the
can
opera?
talk about it if you want me to, but I figured out how to redeploy 10 people.
Okay.
And then
during the opera, or was it a few
But
days?
yeah, during the opera and after. And a big had to do with Staples. So at the time, people still went to Staples to do stuff. But I will just tell you one thing. I took the studio schedule. I asked someone in the studio to have it printed like 6 feet by 6 feet. So we like rolled up this 6-foot schedule and put it on the studio floor. And I said, you need to create as many classes that 10 teachers can teach. And we added classes at like every time you could imagine. It was like, whatever, we did it, but it had to do with the Staples thing. And I'll never forget, we were like crawling around. We're like, well, maybe, Susie can teach on Sundays at 6. Like, it's so funny. And we taught those classes and it worked. And we had like a zillion classes on the schedule. But then, and that happened again, where a billionaire who I won't name had this idea to do something interesting. And so, do not do business with billionaires. Like they don't need to do business with you, really. They'll just like, whatever. So this billionaire has this billionaire plan, and I'm part of the billionaire plan. And we announced the studio, like it's in the email, it's happening, we're selling packages, and billionaire decides he actually doesn't want to go into the fitness industry and just disappears and like maybe pays off the landlord, doesn't pay us anything, and just goes away. And again, I had a whole studio ready to go, and then I had to redeploy people.
I think that the more of these that you've been through over the years, the more resilient you get, right? And you don't stay down in the dumps for too long. I think everyone's granted 5 minutes or maybe a couple of hours at the opera, but the more you've been through this, and certainly 2020 to 2023, we won't say the word, but certainly what happened then, I think, builds this extra layer of resilience. Jennifer, talk to us about a managerial failure. This could be one from you, or it could be one from your team, is fine, small or big, that just stands out as important in your journey.
Is a leadership failure, management failure, is assuming that, call it your constituents, like your employees and your clients, are glad that you're growing. They really might not be glad that you're growing. So when Physique 57 started in 2006, we had early success, very grateful for, and I saw some opportunities to expand quickly. So we went from 1 to 3 studios in like a year and a half, and it took a lot of work, and the team was amazing at executing on that. I assumed that this was exciting news for everybody. And I would send out an email like, yay, we're opening in the Hamptons, and yay, we're opening in Soho. And I was missing a key element, which was sharing what's in it for them. I just thought that they would be excited to work for a brand that's expanding. However, there's a whole downside to expanding. It's more work. It's a little chaotic. Maybe some lack of direct, especially from a new entrepreneur. I was 33. It's my first time doing this. And was I communicating enough? Was I giving enough direction? If people want to know what's happening, like, what does that mean for everybody? And in fact, I had some people leave the company because they were like, well, I don't really know what's happening. Like, you're going so fast. Maybe it's too fast. Maybe the quality is going to decline. Maybe you're going to have me running all over the city teaching classes. I just didn't know what was going to happen. So I realized for employees that when you announce that you're expanding, there's a better way to do it that brings them with you. And they're not just on the roller coaster. They're actually like designing the roller coaster and deciding what this roller coaster is going to look like. Same thing with clients. We don't really talk about expanding with clients anymore. They just want to know that their teachers that they like are going to be teaching in the studio at the same times. They'll understand, obviously, people come and go. I mean, that's the world. That, obviously people have babies or they move away. Like, they get that. But just to be told, like, oh, your favorite Saturday teacher is now teaching downtown, that's the worst news for them, but in a much more delicate way than just like, hey, wow, isn't this exciting? Because it's really 50-50 if someone thinks that's exciting.
I think that's so true. I've certainly seen that before as well. And why would clients care? Unless it's in an area perhaps where they work and they now have another option to train, which isn't going to be much of your client base. Why on earth should they care, really? It's probably quite interesting for them to see if you're opening up here, there, and everywhere. But people always think, well, yeah, what's in it for me? How does this affect my life? Naturally, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. And it's a very important thing to understand for sure.
I've really heard this many, many times. And this is a shout out to anyone in California or Los Angeles. People in New York think Los Angeles and California is very cool. And I have heard so many times that people want to open up in the West Coast and that it will make the brand cooler and that people in New York will think you're cool. Or maybe vice versa. Maybe LA, same thing. The client in New York City could care less if you're in Beverly Hills. Like, that was the big learning experience. They're like, Beverly Hills,
Yep.
Who cares? That was where it really hit home. I'm like, they don't care about California. They are upset that we're now traveling out there. So even if you're regional, it's hard enough. But then when you started talking about national expansion,
yeah,
they really get upset with you.
Yeah, I think expansion especially, it's important to be doing it for the right reasons, not for the Instagram post or the LinkedIn post. Okay,
No,
we're going to go into our
no,
quick fire round. So we've got 30 seconds, Jennifer, on each question. 30 seconds, okay? So one sentence is good, maybe two, as long as it's under 30. And I'm going to keep you honest with the timer here as well. First one, what is your proudest achievement?
Proudest achievement is the length of service for so many people on my team, that they have stayed with me for so long through they've had babies, they've come back, they've done so many different things, and they come back or they stay. But just being like a home base for so many amazing employees is just makes me so proud.
That's awesome. What's one small detail in your experience that most people overlook but makes a huge difference?
This this is almost a comedy, and I just talked about this the other day, is when you're building a studio to be very aware of outlets. And I talk about outlets are my nemesis. You can build a beautiful studio and then realize you're going to have a cord running halfway across the room. So I know you probably have other people saying cooler things, but really when you're building a studio, start with electricity first. It will kill you along the way. And sometimes you have to like rebuild a whole entire wall because you've messed something up. Details.
What's one piece of advice you'd give to someone who wants to create something special, impactful in the fitness industry that you haven't had a chance to talk about today?
Make sure you're building your whole business for your client, not for you.
What's the best advice you've ever received?
Lead with curiosity and not judgment.
Nice. What's the worst piece of advice you've ever received?
Blow it out. That term has to go in the garbage with every brand. Oh, you should blow it out and have it all over and like take over the world. No.
You mean blow it up, kind of?
Like your brand. Like people say like, oh, you're doing so well, you should just blow it. Sorry, in America, there's a term called blow it out, which means have 500 studios. And I just don't think that that's the best advice for every brand.
It sounds like quite an American thing as well. And I quite like that. Yeah, you get that nice push, but you need to just consider whether that is actually right for you. I love it. Can you think of a time in your life when you received delightful hospitality, either like professionally at a business or personally, and how did you feel?
I was in Goa in India, and I stayed at a wonderful hotel, and they had a full-on orientation. And I was with two instructors. We had just done a big project, a teaching workshop in Mumbai, and then I took them to Goa for the weekend. And this first half hour at this hotel was ridiculous. Like they gave us these flower necklaces, they sat us down, they talked us through the whole hotel experience, they gave us cold drinks. And this meeting basically that we had was, and we were only there for 2 days, and you'd think it was our first day of college or something, the way that they were onboarding us to this basically 48-hour weekend was out of control. So Goa, awesome. India, thumbs up.
Nice that you got to experience that with the team as well, so they could see that and experience that, and hopefully bring some of that into Physique. I'm sure they did. Finally, Jennifer, if you could embed one key principle into the DNA of every fitness club, every experience, worldwide, globally, what would that be?
I think it has to do with your first question about the client experience is think about the entire client experience from beginning to end with complete humility, knowing that you're going to lose people at every step. So there's the class. Yes. That's so important. But if you could really think about what's that like 2-week journey for somebody, or from like the time that they have brand awareness to the time that they're actually a client, and just think about the client journey all the time. And I think we kind of get stuck. Let's say there's 8 elements of a customer journey. I think we can get stuck maybe in the product too much. And I benefit from the fact that I don't teach exercise. I never have. I'm really a client of my own brand, and I'm very focused on like the top maybe 3 or 4 aspects of the client journey. And then there's other people that take the rest of it. But you really have to think about the whole thing, the whole entire thing, like word of mouth, who's bringing guest passes, like the whole thing.
Love it. I think that's a great note to finish on, because we've talked about this so much just in our conversations, and also on stage, of course, at the HFA show, of just dissecting every part of the member journey. Really take that journey in your own club, visit other clubs as well, so you know what it's like to be a member, and really break it down and consider every single touch point. I think it's just such a good starting point, and such a good thing to just go back to every now and again to make sure that you're doing things right, so that, as you said, you're not losing anyone along the way. Because really, one weak point of the member journey and you might be losing people. Jennifer, it's always a pleasure having these conversations, and it's always nice to be able to get out some of the things that we talk about to listeners and viewers, so that they can improve their gym's fitness experience and they can do great things in the industry. So thank you very much for joining. I look forward to seeing you again in person soon, I'm sure, and I'll catch you soon.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Jack.